Hey everyone, Joey here. I just want to take a quick minute to walk you through one of our sites. This is a site we've been working at for a couple years now, and we're getting pretty close to completion. Basically, let me show you over here. We did an initial phase 1 investigation a couple years back and found that pretty much exactly where I am standing right here, you can see where we have all these wells and things on the ground. This was an old dry cleaning site for about 40 or 50 years. On top of that, our phase 1 investigation also showed that the county environmental health had numerous records that this dry cleaning facility kept on site up to 110 gallons. That's 2 industrial drums of perchloroethylene, PCE, which is a common dry cleaning solvent, now outlawed in the state of California due to the carcinogenic properties that it has. And that is what we spend a lot of time cleaning up right now in the environment, is these old dry cleaner sites. PCE gets into the subsurface and can permeate. It's heavier than water, so it can sink down into the groundwater and then be stuck in the groundwater for years and years. It has to be actively remediated. It takes far too long to break down on its own. And when that PCE is stuck in shallow groundwater, the breakdown of the PCE can off-gas vapors. It can break down from PCE, which is 4 hydrocarbon chains, to TCE, which is 3 and slightly smaller and lighter, and it can become volatile and off-gas up into the vadose zone above the water table. It can then rise through the pore space in the soil and accumulate underneath buildings and become a vapor intrusion risk for people who work and live in those buildings above the PCE plume. So yeah, what we've done here is we've got a number of wells, monitoring wells and soil vapor extraction wells. These smaller ones are our monitoring wells, our groundwater wells. These larger ones here that you can see are our soil vapor extraction wells. So they all come underground, they come up into that manifold, and they get taken all the way back here to our soil vapor extraction system. And so basically what a soil vapor well is whereas a groundwater well will go all the way down through the strata and puncture the top of the aquifer and be screened in an interval underwater in a saturated layer of sand or gravel or whatever the subsurface is. What a vapor well does is it's built just the same. It has a screened interval, but that interval is above the saturated zone. So what we're doing is, instead of pulling in water like you would do it with a groundwater well pulls in water, a soil vapor well is above the water table, so it pulls in the air or the soil vapor that's in the pore space. Below the water table, all the pore space is filled with water. Above the water table, it's filled with air. Soil gas is what we call it, or soil vapor. So that manifold comes all the way over here, and it comes in behind this shed, and then you can see all of our wells right there. All of our wells right there, they all get routed up. They come in and they go into the shed. This is going to be kind of noisy, so I'll explain it. Inside the shed, we have a electric powered fan. It's a 25 horsepower fan. It just spins a turbine that creates vacuum pressure that pulls on all those wells. So we're actively pulling in the soil vapor from the subsurface, and it goes through the manifold, through those pipes, into the shed, through our system here. What I just showed there was our was the motor, basically the turbine that's creating the vacuum pressure. That just pulls it through, and then once it goes through the system, it comes out the side of the shed right up here and it gets pumped through. This is our first stage. It's 1,000-pound granulated activated carbon, and that's the second stage. So it gets pumped through the first stage and the second stage, and the activated carbon attracts, it adsorbs the PCE, TCE, and the breakdown products, and they flow through these before getting to this permanganate scrubber, which breaks down the final stage of the PCE breakdown. So it goes from PCE, which is 4, TCE, which is 3, to DCE, which is 2, and then finally vinyl chloride, which is just single. This permanganate scrubber captures the vinyl chloride, the VC, before finally discharging it to the atmosphere. So we have these sampling ports on here, and we come out here weekly and we sample the influent vapor stream just to make sure that we're pulling on all the wells, that they have adequate vacuum pressure, and the flow rates are there. And then we also sample the gas that's getting blown out, because the air board's going to be upset if we're blowing contaminants into the air, right? And then we also pull from these to make sure. So we've got the inlet to the carbon vessel right here. This tells us the air that's going into the carbon vessel. This is what's coming out of this carbon vessel. This is what's going out of this carbon vessel. This down here, there's another port that tells us what's going into this carbon vessel. But basically that just shows us that the vessels are still working. So we can sample at the inlet, the influent stream, and then the midpoints, and then the effluents, to let us know if we're having any breakthrough. If that first carbon vessel gets so full of PCE that the activated carbon has no more surface area to absorb any more of that contaminant, it's going to break through and start going into the second carbon drum. And then if that second carbon drum also gets full, it'll start going to the permanganate scrubber and just being discharged into the air. So as soon as we witness breakthrough from the first vessel, we take the second one and we put it in the place of the first one, and we bring a new carbon vessel out here. We basically vacuum out all the old carbon, put new carbon in, and that becomes the second carbon vessel. That then is ensuring that we don't have any breakthrough, we don't have any reasons for the air board to come after us, because we're pumping a bunch of contaminants into the air, right? Which would be bad. So that's a little rundown of sort of how the process works. Phase 1 finds a potential recognized environmental condition, and then we came out here and did a little investigation. We did some drilling and tested the soil and groundwater, and we found that there was indeed contamination here. So then the next step is remediating and cleaning up that process, and that's when we went to groundwater. We had to characterize how far off site this goes. This site itself has 17 groundwater wells, and this well field of 8 soil vapor extraction wells. The extraction wells are just on site because the soil vapor is just on, the contaminated soil vapor is pretty much just on the site. The groundwater plume actually goes across the street, but just across the street, and we've got wells both down, all the way far down gradient and up gradient and lateral, so we can constrain it and make sure we know exactly where this contaminant plume is, to make sure it's not migrating further, and make sure it's not affecting any of the adjoining properties. The last stage so right now we're in the last stage of remediating. During that second stage, when we were doing the sampling and installing all the wells, we also tested the soil vapor and indoor air of all the adjoining properties to make sure that this plume wasn't affecting those properties and putting those people at risk. So that's sort of, in a nutshell, how we can go from phase 1 to remediation, and all the sort of process in between. Gave you a quick rundown of this soil vapor extraction system. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks.